The night the alarm stopped screaming was the night I understood what silence truly meant. Not the peaceful music kind. Not the soft hush of wind over ruins. The kind that presses against your ears music and makes you aware of your own breathing. I was alone in the eastern watchtower when the red lights went dark. The last of the evacuation ships had already left the valley, their engines burning streaks of white across the clouds. Below me, the facility gates sealed with a metallic groan that echoed like a tomb closing. And somewhere behind those reinforced walls, she was waiting. They called music her subject, Aurora, in the files. To the world beyond the valley. She was something music else entirely. The last fertile giantesses, 12 meters tall. The final hope of a species engineered to save ours from extinction. And somehow I was the one assigned to guard her. Music, welcome to our channel, Beyond the Observable. Here we explore stories that begin where the obvious ends. Please subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and tell us where you're listening from. Music that support helps us bring you stories that are deeper and more unsettling every music time. Let's begin. I adjusted the rifle on my shoulder, though I knew it was useless against what hunted in the forests now. The creatures drawn by her presence had grown music bolder every night. They could smell her, they could feel her. So could I when I stepped through the inner security doors. The temperature shifted, warmer, softer. The harsh industrial lighting faded into amber tones designed to calm her nervous system. She sat in the center of the chamber, her long legs folded carefully to avoid crushing the reinforced benches. Her hair, pale silver with faint strands of gold, cascaded over her shoulders like molten moonlight. She wore a fitted tunic of deep emerald fabric cinched at the waist with braided metallic threads and armored braces around her wrists engraved with symbols of her lost clan. Even seated, her head nearly brushed the ceiling. Music, her eyes found me immediately. Deep blue, luminous, lonely. "You're late," she said softly, her voice resonating through the chamber like distant thunder music wrapped in velvet. "I'm right on time," I replied, forcing a small smile. Systems check took longer. She studied me the way giants do, not with suspicion, but with a kind of heavy awareness. Every movement I made was small in comparison, music fragile. I approached the platform built at her level and climbed the steel ladder until I stood near her shoulder. Up close, she was breathtaking, not only in size, music, in presence. There was strength in the way she held herself, but also something trembling beneath it. "You didn't leave," she said. It wasn't a question. They gave me the option. And music admitted, but someone has to stay. Her fingers, each one thicker than my torso, shifted slightly, music against the floor. "Careful. Always careful." Everyone else left to save themselves. She whispered, "You stayed to guard me." Outside, something howled in the darkness. I swallowed. "It's my job." "No," she said, her gaze softening. "It isn't the truth music settled between us." My contract had ended when the evacuation began. I was no longer obligated to protect her. Music I had chosen to. She leaned closer, her face descending slowly until her eyes were level with mine. Even in that motion, she moved with astonishing control, music as if afraid the air displaced. By her breath might knock me off balance. "Why?" she asked. I hesitated, because when the council debated whether to preserve you or terminate you music to prevent capture, I saw fear in your eyes. "Because you're not a weapon. Because when you thanked the technicians for bringing you water, they couldn't even look at you." But I didn't say any of that. "Because someone should stand music beside you," I answered quietly. The howl outside grew nearer. Claws scraped against the outer walls. Her pupils narrowed. "They are coming again," she said. I nodded. "They won't. Get music through. You cannot stop them alone." "I won't have to." She looked confused. That was when the power grid flickered. For a heartbeat, the chamber went dark. When the emergency lights flared back on, she had moved, not away from me, toward me. Her enormous hand rose slowly, hesitantly, as if approaching a frightened animal. Then, with impossible gentleness, she cuped me against her chest. The warmth of her body radiated through the fabric of her tunic. I felt music, the steady rhythm of her heartbeat, deep and powerful like distant drums. "I will protect you tonight," she murmured. The wall behind us shuddered violently, concrete cracked, music dust rained from the ceiling, and in that moment, held against the last fertile giantesses on Earth, I realized something far more dangerous than the creatures outside. If she survived, music, the world would fight to control her. If she fell, humanity would lose its future. And somehow she was trusting me with both. She lowered her face until her forehead gently touched my back. "Thank you for staying," she whispered. Her gratitude wasn't polite, it was personal, and it scared me more than the monsters clawing at our walls. The outer barrier finally gave way with a deafening roar. The first breach sounded like the sky splitting open. Music, concrete shattered inward, steel beams bent like reeds. The chamber trembled beneath her as if the earth itself had flinched. She did not drop me even as the outer corridor collapsed in a storm of dust and twisted metal. Her hand tightened, just enough to keep me secure against her chest. Music, I could feel the vibration of her pulse beneath my boots. Steady, but faster now. 3 shadows slipped through the smoke. Music, they moved on all fours at first, their spines arched, limbs elongated by mutation. Their eyes glowed with a feral, phosphorescent music hunger. They were drawn to her fertility, to the genetic signal that pulsed from her like a lighthouse. In the dark, "They smell me," she music whispered. "I know," I answered, raising my rifle. Even though it looked like a toy from this height, the creatures leaped. She moved with astonishing speed. Her free hand slammed down, not in panic, but in precision. The impact music cracked the reinforced floor, trapping one creature beneath her palm. The others darted around her legs, claws scraping against her armored greaves. "Get down!" I shouted. She obeyed instantly, music lowering herself so I could climb from her hand onto the elevated platform. I fired at the nearest shadow. The Shaw staggered it, buying her a second. That second was enough. She rose to her full height. The ceiling groaned as her shoulders brushed the support beams. Music, her silver hair whipped through the dust like a banner of light. With controlled fury, she pivoted and drove her heel down, crushing the second creature before it could leap for her throat. The third latched onto her arm, teeth sinking into the metallic bracer. She didn't scream. She looked at me, not in fear. "An apology. I am sorry," she said softly, as if the violence offended her more than the pain. "Don't apologize," I replied, music firing again. The creature released her and lunged toward me. I braced for impact that never came. Her fingers closed around it mid-her. She lifted it to eye level, studying it almost sadly. "You were human once," she murmured. Music, then she tightened her grip. Silence returned, broken only by falling debris and the hiss of failing systems. She stood still for several seconds, breathing deeply, making sure no other threats approached. Only when she was certain did she kneel again, lowering herself carefully so she wouldn't bring the damaged ceiling down on us. I ran toward her arm. "You're bleeding," I said. The bite had music pierced the edge of her bracer. Dark crimson traced a thin line along her forearm, startling against her luminous skin. "It is nothing," she replied. "It's not nothing." I climbed the music maintenance ladder to reach her arm. Up close, the wound looked small compared to her size. Music, but I knew infections spread differently in engineered bodies like hers. She watched me as I opened the emergency med kit. "So you stayed?" she said again, as if still trying to understand it. I said I would. "You could still leave." I glanced toward the collapsed corridor. Smoke drifted upward through the fractured ceiling. Beyond it, the night sky glowed faintly music with distant fires. "There's nowhere to go," I answered. She studied my face in silence. I felt exposed beneath that gaze, as if she could see every doubt I had buried. "They will come for me," she said quietly. "Not the creatures, the humans." I hesitated while applying the sealant patch music to her wound. "You heard the council?" I asked. "I hear more than they think," she replied. Of course she did. Enhanced perception was one of music the many gifts forced upon her species. "They argued about whether I should be preserved," she continued, "or controlled." I tightened the bandage. "You're not a resource," I said. Her lips curved music faintly. "To them, I am the last womb capable of restoring balance. A solution, a future. She shifted slightly, lowering her face closer to where I stood. Even kneeling, her eyes were level with mine again. And to you, she musically asked. The question hit harder than the reached to me. She was the only being in this dying valley who still felt alive. You're Aurora? Music, I said simply. Her breath caught. No one had used her chosen name in weeks. Only designations, only classifications. Slowly, she raised her uninjured hand and placed it flat against the platform music beside me. You are very small, she said softly. I laughed under my breath. I've noticed, but your presence fills this chamber more than theirs ever did. The gratitude in her voice had changed. It wasn't formal. It wasn't music distant. It was warm. She extended one finger toward me, hesitating just before touching my shoulder. Meh, she asked. The fact that a 12 meters giant test was asking permission from someone who barely reached her wrist music almost broke something inside me. Yes, I said. Her fingertip rested gently against my back. The contact was careful, reverent, not possessive, music not overpowering, protective. A deep rumble echoed through the valley. Not claws this time. Engines. She looked toward the fractured wall, eyes narrowing. They have returned, she whispered. Searchlights cut through the smoke outside, human searchlights. And this time they weren't coming to evacuate. They were coming for her. Her finger curled slightly around me, instinctively shielding. Will you still stand beside me? She asked quietly. Wouldn't they try to take me? The engines grew louder. I met her gaze. Yes? Music, I said. And for the first time since the world began to collapse, she smiled. The searchlight's music swept across the shattered wall like cold fingers. Armored transports rolled into the valley, their engines growling in disciplined formation. These were not evacuation music ships. These were containment units. Aurora's finger remained curved protectively around me as she rose to her full height again. Dust cascaded from her hair and shoulders like silver rain. They move with certainty. Music, she murmured. They have already decided my fate. I climbed down from the platform and hurried toward the control console overlooking the breach. The external cameras flickered back to life just long enough to confirm what I feared. Council insignias, special operations, capture protocols, music. They're not here to kill you, I said. She turned her luminous gaze toward me. You do not sound reassured. They'll sedate music you, transport you. Wait, put you somewhere deep underground where they can monitor every breath you music take, and you got an answer. Because I already knew. Guards who fail to surrender valuable assets music do not receive. Second chances. The outer perimeter doors blasted open under controlled demolition. Smoke rolled inward, followed by figures in reinforced suits carrying electrified harpoon launchers scaled for her size. Aurora did not retreat. She stepped forward. The floor trembled with each movement, but there was no aggression in her posture, only resolve. I will not harm them unless they force me, she said. That might not be enough, I replied. A commander's voice boomed through amplified speakers. Subject Aurora, kneel, and submit to containment. This is a lawful order under Restoration Directive. 7. Music. Her shoulders stiffened at the word subject. I ran to her side, standing at the base of her leg like a defiant shadow. You don't have to kneel, I said quietly. If I resist, they will escalate. If you kneel, they'll chain you. The soldiers' music advanced, forming a semicircle. Harpoon tips crackled with blue current. Aurora looked down at me, and for a moment, the world narrowed to the space between us. Are you promised to stand beside me? She said. I did. Music, her expression softened, something vulnerable flickering beneath her strength. Then stand with me now. I stepped forward directly between her and the advancing line. The commander hesitated. Guard, unit, he barked. Music, stand down. You are interfering with a priority reclamation. She has a name, I shouted back. Her name is Aurora. A ripple of tension passed through the soldiers' music behind me. I felt her shift, not to flee, to shield. Her hand descended music slowly, hovering above me without touching, ready to intercept any projectile. You endanger humanity by defying this order, the commander warned. No, I answered. Music. You endanger it by treating its last hope like a prisoner. One of the soldiers fired. The harpoon stirred through the air. Aurora's hand moved faster than I thought possible. Her fingers closed around the projectile inches from my head. Music, electricity surged across her skin, illuminating her veins in brief, radiant patterns. She did not cry out. She crushed the weapon in her fist. The valley went silent. Music, then everything exploded into motion. Multiple harpoons launched simultaneously. She twisted, shielding me completely this time. Two struck her shoulder. One grazed her thigh. Currents pulsed through music, her body, forcing her to one knee. Aura, I shouted. She planted her hand into the ground to steady herself. Cracks. Spiderwebbed outward from the impact. I asked them not to force me, she said through clenched teeth. Her eyes lifted to the soldiers. They were not filled with rage. They were filled with music disappointment. With one controlled sweep of her arm, she knocked aside the nearest transport vehicle without crushing it. Metal screamed as it toppled, blocking the soldiers' advance without killing anyone. She was choosing restraint. Music even now. The commander raised his weapon again, aiming directly at her face. I ran forward before I could think. I climbed the fallen vehicle, using music its twisted frame as elevation, and stood directly in his line of sight. If you fire that, I said, breath shaking, you'll have to go through me. The commander stared at me through his visor. You are expendable. Maybe, music, I replied, but she isn't. Behind me, Aurora's massive hand gently lifted me from the wreckage before another shot could be fired. She held me close to her shoulder again, shielding me entirely. Her breathing was heavier now, the electric current music still dancing faintly across her skin. I will not allow them to hurt you, she whispered. You don't have to protect me from my own species, music said. Her eyes searched mine. But I want to... Another convoy of vehicles appeared at the edge of the valley. Reinforcements. Aurora looked toward the distant mountains, then back at me. There is another way, she said quietly. What do you mean? There is a sanctuary my kind once prepared before the fall beyond those peaks. You can't outrun aircraft in your condition. A faint, knowing smile touched her lips. I do not need to outrun them. Before I could ask what she meant, the ground beneath the valley began to tremble. Not from vehicles, from below. The soldiers paused, confused. Aura's eyes glowed, music brighter. They buried our last gift here, she whispered, the earth. Behind the facility cracked open, and something ancient began to rise. The valley split open like a wound. Music soldiers stumbled backward as the earth behind the ruined facility buckled and tore apart. Rock plates lifted from below as if something colossal were pushing upward from the planet's bones. Aurora Music held me securely against her shoulder, her fingers curved around my back with steady precision despite the tremors shaking her injured body. From the chasm, a structure emerged. Not a creature, a machine. Its surface shimmered with the same metallic threads woven into Aurora's braces. Ancient symbols pulsed faintly music across its curved hull. It resembled a massive crescent rising from the ground, large enough for her to stand within its arc. The soldiers' music froze. What is that? I whispered. Our inheritance? She replied. Searchlights flickered wildly as electromagnetic interference distorted their music systems. The armored transport stalled, engines sputtering into silence. Music! The commander shouted orders, but static swallowed his voice. Aurora carefully lowered me to the fractured rooftop of the facility so I could stand without falling. Even now, she prioritized my safety over her escape. You knew this was here? I asked. I knew there was a contingency, she said. I did not know it remained intact. The machine continued to rise until its full form towered nearly as high as she did. At its center, a platform extended outward, glowing with soft blue. Light recognition dawned in her eyes. It responds to me. Another harpoon fired, striking music her side. She winced, her breath catching sharply. The electric charge rippled through her again, stronger this time. I felt panic surge through me. You're too hurt, I said. Music, you can't fight and activate that thing at the same time. I do not need to fight, she answered. She stepped forward. Each movement was slower now, pain evident in the tightness of her jaw. Blood traced faint lines down her thigh, glistening under the harsh lights. Yet she walked with dignity. The soldiers attempted to regroup, some switching tactics, raising heavier weapons. But as Aurora placed her hand against the glowing platform, a pulse of energy erupted outward. Not destructive, music disabling. Every electronic system within the valley died instantly. Music vehicles powered down, weapons went dark, floodlights blinked out. The only illumination left was the soft radiance emanating from the ancient machine and the moon above. Aurora swayed slightly, weakened from both the wounds and the energy surge. Instinctively, I ran toward her again, climbing the fractured debris to reach her foot. I'm here. Music, I called. She looked down, relief flooding her features. You always are. The machine's inner arc opened, revealing a chamber shaped to accommodate her form. Symbols along the surface shifted music, as if reading her genetic signature. It will take me their reach, she said. Where, I asked. To the sanctuary beneath the northern range. My sisters built it before they were hunted. The word sisters struck me. You never told me how many survived. None, she whispered. The weight of that? Truth hung heavy between us. You are the last, I said quietly. Yes. The soldiers were retreating now, unable to operate their equipment. Some simply stared, unsure whether to fear her or the ancient technology awakening around her. Aurora knelt carefully, lowering herself so her face was level with mine one more time. You cannot come with me, she said. The words hit harder than any explosion. Why not? The sanctuary is sealed to human biology. It would reject you. There has to be another way. Her enormous hand rose music slower this time, trembling faintly as she cupped me again. She brought me close to her heart, and I felt its rhythm strained, but steady. If you remain with me, she said softly, they will label you a traitor. I already am. A faint smile touched her lips. You are brave, she whispered. And foolish maybe, I replied, but I'm not leaving you. Her thumb brushed gently along my back, music a gesture impossibly delicate for someone of her size. You already gave me something greater than protection, she said. What choice? The machine's chamber brightened, signaling readiness. If I stay here, she continued, they will chain me. If I go alone, they cannot control what I become. And what will you become? Her eyes shimmered with quiet determination. Hope on my own terms. The ground trembled again, not from attack, but from the machine stabilizing for departure. She lowered me slowly to the rooftop once more. I grabbed onto one of her fingers before she could fully withdraw. Will I ever see you again? I asked. Music, her gaze softened in a way that made the vast valley feel very small. If humanity chooses compassion over control, she said, I will return. She leaned closer, music, her forehead gently touching mine. The contact was warm, grounding, intimate in its sincerity. Thank you, she whispered, for seeing me. Before I could answer, she rose and stepped into the luminous chamber. The arc sealed around her. A column of light erupted upward, silent and blinding, and then she was gone. The valley fell music still. The soldiers stood powerless. I stood alone on the broken rooftop, staring at the empty sky where the last fertile giantesses had vanished. But deep beneath the mountains, something had awakened. Music, and I knew this was not the end. The valley felt smaller without her. Not quieter, not safer, music just emptier. By dawn, the council forces had withdrawn, leaving behind shattered vehicles and unanswered questions. Their electronics remained useless, their authority wounded in ways they would never publicly admit. They took statements from me. They asked how she activated the machine. They demanded coordinates. I gave them nothing music because the truth was simple. I did not know where she had gone, only that she had chosen freedom. Weeks passed. Official broadcasts music labeled the event a catastrophic containment failure. My name was quietly erased from Music the Registry, my access revoked, my rank dissolved. Traitor was the word, whispered in corridors, but at night, when the wind moved across the valley ruins, I felt something else, a presence. Music. The first sign came on the 23rd night. The northern mountains pulsed music faintly with light. At first I thought it was lightning behind the peaks, but the sky was clear. Then the ground beneath my feet, music hummed with a vibration I recognized instantly. Not destructive, music alive. I climbed the old watchtower again, the same place where the silence had once suffocated me. And there she was, not descending from the sky, music emerging from the mountain face itself. Stone parted like water around her as the sanctuary revealed its hidden gate. Soft, bioluminescent patterns flowed across the cliffs, illuminating her silhouette. She stepped forward into the moonlight, radiant, healed. Her silver hair cascaded freely, longer now, shimmering with threads of faint gold light. Her armor had music. No longer the restrained braces of captivity, but elegant crystalline bands that glowed with internal energy. A flowing mantle of deep sapphire fabric draped from her shoulders, moving like liquid night against her luminous skin. She looked stronger, not weaponized. Music awakened. Her eyes scanned the valley until they found me, even from that distance. I felt it. Recognition. I ran down the tower steps and across the cracked earth, breath burning in my lungs. She crossed the valley in slow, deliberate strides, music careful as always not to fracture the ground unnecessarily. When she reached me, she knelt. 12 meters of quiet power lowering to meet one ordinary human. You waited, she said softly. Of course, music, I did, I answered. Her smile was no longer fragile. It was certain. The sanctuary is alive, she told me. It carries the preserved knowledge of my sisters, their memories, their science, their dreams. Music, emotion tightened my throat. You're not alone anymore. No, she said gently. But I returned because of you. She extended her hand palm upward. This time, when I stepped onto it, there was no trembling in her fingers, only steady warmth. She lifted me to her shoulder as she had that first night, but now the gesture felt different. Not defensive, inviting. Humanity will come again, I said quietly. Yes, she replied. And next time, her gaze turned toward the distant cities beyond the horizon. Next time, I will not hide. She began walking toward the edge of the valley, music carrying me with effortless grace. The sanctuary can restore more than my kind, she continued. Its archives hold solutions to soil collapse, atmospheric decay, music, genetic illness. They feared controlling me because they did not understand partnership. And now, I asked, now they will have a choice. The eastern music sky began to lighten with dawn. She stopped at the ridge overlooking the broken world below. I will offer them cooperation, she said, not submission. Her voice carried across the valley, steady and resolute. And if they refuse? I asked. Music. She looked at me and there was no anger in her eyes, only unwavering conviction. Then I will build a future without their permission. The wind moved through her hair, catching the sapphire mantle behind her like a banner. She lowered me gently to Music the Ridge, so we stood side by side, small and giant, fragile and powerful, human and something more. I was designed to ensure survival. Music, she said quietly. But survival without dignity is not life. I nodded. Music, and you taught me that, she added. The sun broke over the horizon, casting gold across her luminous skin. In that light, she did not look like a weapon. She looked like music, the beginning of a new era. She reached down and wrapped her hand around me once more, not to shield me from danger, but to stand with me as an equal in spirit. Will you remain at my side? She music asked. When the world comes to negotiate, I looked out over the cities waking in music the distance. Yes. I said, this time, not as your guard. Her eyes softened. As what, then? As your witness. She smiled. music radiant and unafraid. Together, we watched the sunrise over a civilization that no longer held all the power. And somewhere, deep beneath the mountains, the music sanctuary pulsed with the promise of rebirth, a future not ruled by fear, but by choice. If you enjoyed this story, music, make sure to subscribe and leave a like. It helps us bring more enchanting stories like this one to brighten your day. And let us know in the comments where in the world you're listening from. See you next time.